What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Reel Down. I'm your host, Jimmy Skinner. With me, as usual, Garrett Johnson. What's going on, my man?
What's up?
You know,
Back for another week.
that's right. Another show, another guest.
Yeah.
Keeping the grind going. Trying to keep
Yeah.
up with work, man. This week's been busy already.
I feel you. I feel like
I
I've
didn't feel
already
like I
worked a
got it.
full week and it's only like Tuesday.
That's what I didn't take. I told myself I wasn't going to fish this weekend so that I could give myself time to like catch up because I had a busy work week last week and everything. I just needed like some rest. That didn't happen. I
Yeah, of
told a guy I'd meet him for like an
course.
early morning trip, and we ended up like fishing probably 5 or 6 different spots, like until like dark, and I was just like, ugh. And
That's a
it
full
was
day's work
not
right
like
there.
boat ramp places. It was like hike in, wade, maybe drag a boat, maybe not drag a boat.
Yeah.
I did it all day for one fish. It was terrible. It was just I told some guys that were wanting to go out, I was like, Saturday, everything again in the odds is stacking against going fishing today. And I still went. And it was, I mean, I caught like I caught the biggest, probably 15-inch fish I've ever seen. Like,
Just fat.
it had the head
Yeah.
of like a 20. It was stunted lengthwise, but just this big old belly. And it was a spot.
Dang.
It was crazy. Caught
Yeah.
it on. What have I been catching everything on? The swim jigs, spanker
Swim jig.
jigs. Can't say enough about the spanker jig, swim jig. I've been tearing them up on that thing.
Man, I got
And
to
then,
go get into some backwater stuff. Me and one of my buddies, or I'll just give him a shout out, Will, uh like to go fishing and got into some frogfish for the first time this year. And that was, man, that'll get your blood pumping. Like, I think I caught 10 or 12, like, and it seemed like it was just back to back to back, um, in 55-degree water.
I hadn't got my first frog bite yet of this year, and it's kind of depressing because I had it by February last year. But I've been tearing them up on a buzzbait, and then I got some really good information on. I use that Jacob Wheeler accent finesse
Mhm.
buzzbait,
Yeah.
and I went to the little expo they had down in Gadsden, the Alabama Fishing Expo. And there's actually a guy there selling them because you can't usually buy them anywhere but Tackle Warehouse or straight from Accent. And he had a whole bunch of them, so I bought like all of them. And he's like, you fish it with the skirt? And I was like, yeah. He's like, no, to leave that damn skirt off that thing.
Hmm.
And
Works
like
better without the
him and then
skirt.
2 college guys came up, and they were like, oh no, he told us the same thing. White rage craw, black buzz bait, no skirt. He was like
Yeah, I was gonna
the
say,
big.
you run a trailer on that if you're not using a skirt?
I don't run trailers on buzz baits normally, but I normally leave all my buzz baits skirted.
Yeah.
Um, but he said that, and they agreed in their experience with the bigger fish, how they just kind of slurp the buzz bait,
Yeah.
just having that trailer on. Just so I was like, okay, I'll
Suck
try
it
it
down.
because I don't even throw like the buzz toad or the BZ, whatever the hell that toad is on the buzz bait Strike King thing.
I like throwing those little, Z-Man Minnow Z, the little tiny swim baits. They're like 3-inch swim baits or whatever. Yeah, I like throwing those as my buzzbait trailers.
I'll tell you the most
Uh,
exciting bait I bought though was the Bass Mafia dangerous shad or dangerous swimmer or whatever it's
yeah,
called. They
the
they
the
have blueback
new
chartreuse.
Mag Draft, basically,
Yeah,
copy. Everybody's got their own copy of it now.
but they make it in a blueback chartreuse, which is like my money color, and
Hmm.
I could
Couldn't
not get one.
resist.
And you don't have to buy a harness for it. Like you can just put it on a flashy swimmer, which is great.
Yeah,
I mean, you can with the mag drafts too, but like the mag drafts now, if when you buy them, if you buy them rigged, they come on a harness, and then
yeah. But you can get the freestyle ones that you
yeah.
can get
I've
rigged however
actually
you want.
bought a mag drafter with a harness because I've never used one like that before. I want to see what that's
Hmm.
like. I'm sure I'm going to snag that thing and everything I throw
You'd
it.
be surprised, dude. I swimming with through lily pad fields and through docks and all kinds of stuff without hanging them up.
Well, maybe it'll work for me. I just want to catch something on it. I'm not a swim bait guy. Like once swim bait goes over 4.5 inches, I don't touch it. And
Uh,
everybody I know,
and
like
you're missing some. There's
Russ is
some.
going throwing giant mag drafts in the rivers and moving current and tearing up giant smallmouth. So I'm missing the bite for sure.
Yeah, there's some fish you're definitely missing on that.
Well, while we were out playing around this weekend,
Yeah.
the competitive kayak fishing world was continuing the 2023 season. This week was up on the Hobie BOS Series, and they were down on Caddo and Bisteneau lakes down in it's Louisiana, but does it cross over into Texas? Is
A
it
little
that
bit, yeah.
close?
So it's like right on the border of Texas and
That's what I thought.
Louisiana.
So South
But majority
Texas,
of it's in Louisiana, I think.
yeah. So yeah, we got the winner of that today. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and bring him on. Welcome to the show, Mr. Rolando Nandin. How you doing?
Good, man. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Man, we appreciate you joining us to tell us about probably one of the most like hard hitting tournaments we've seen in a while as far as quality fish being caught, but basically everyone.
Yeah. Everybody, like
Like
Yeah,
all the way down the list. I think you had to go down to like
I,
100 over 100th place just for somebody that has 150 inches or less. That's
yeah.
insane.
It was a pretty good event. I think the first day, I think there was like 20 something bags over 90 inches or something like that.
yeah,
So
and I know uh, day one, 107th place had 80 inches, which I mean, 80 inches is where you like to say that you've had a respectable day,
hmm
and 107 people did that. So that's
That's like
that's
over the half the
insane.
field or whatever.
This is so like normally when I have a bad tournament, I like to think be like you see like maybe the first third of the field normally they'll have like a good tournament, and then the rest of the
yeah,
field kind of struggles. And I'm like, okay, I was in the wrong area. You know, it's not me. It's not that bad. A lot of people struggled. This one, there's no excuse. Everybody was on fish on this one. So
Yeah.
like,
yeah,
not to be an ass, but if you didn't do good, I don't know what you were doing wrong because everybody had that place figured out.
Yeah, you may want to rethink the whole scenario.
yeah. About the only thing I could think of is you're around too many people,
Oh no,
and
Yeah.
that's always the truth. Yeah.
yeah, if there's way too many people, I mean, your odds of go drastically down because every tree gets hit. There's some areas that get really dense with people like on those backwaters.
Hmm.
You start getting into those little tight spots, man. You get too many people in there, and you can have a bad tournament real quick.
I've heard of
Well,
ramps there that get like there. It's just a little gravel ramp basically,
Yep.
but there's kayaks lined up around the shoreline that are like
Yeah.
40, 50
Yeah.
deep. And you're like, God, okay.
it's
No, for
one of those
sure.
few times that you're probably looking to not, everybody's looking for the skinny back stuff. It's you either got to do the Drew Gregory thing and find something like, way out of the way that takes a lot of work to get to, or just go to the obvious spots because it seems like everybody else is dodging the obvious.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
man, before we get too far into it, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell the whole paddle and fin world who you are, how you got into fishing, and you know, just your story. We want to hear it.
Yeah, so Rolando Nandin, I'm San Antonio, Texas, and I've been fishing since I was a kid. Lived my entire life here in San Antonio. A lot of the lakes around here are pretty clear water actually. So, and then we have some river fishing. So I used to do, a little bit of that. Most of my time was actually spent because in Del Rio, I had a lot of family in Del Rio, so I fished a little bit of Amistad and the park that's around there, and
That's awesome.
had some, cousins and friends that would pretty much taught me how to use a bait caster, as a kid, and grew up doing it ever since. And then, for a while there, I just would fish with my brother. We do a lot of bank fishing, and a lot of it was catfishing, and we had some poles out. And while that, letting that soak, I'd go run a bank and try to catch some bass and the little pond jumping here and there. Never really thought about the tournament scene until uh, I think it was like 2016 or 17. And here in San Antonio, there was a uh, cats tournament that they used to hold. And
Yeah.
so I jumped into that. I think it was 2017. Got my, I had a kayak and Academy kayak, right? So I did that, and then
Probably
I
warm out in that thing too.
yeah. Yeah, not the most comfortable deal, but it float and it got you out there. So I would do that, and really, when I got to doing those tournaments locally here, it's when I really got the itch to want to keep doing the tournaments, and it really showed me that, man, you have to bring your A game. I mean, I thought I knew how to bass fish, but when I first jumped into those tournaments, I was like, it's another level here, man. It's
Yeah. It's a lot
those guys,
different when there's like
yeah,
on the line and there's pressure of time
yeah.
constraints and all that. Yeah.
I know. I used to always joke around and be like, dude, these guys got to have pet fish at these lakes because I don't know how they freaking catch 5 pounders, like all 5 of them every day, but it's the more more you spend time on the water, the more you add you develop different techniques. You start figuring out how to target that, you know what I'm saying, and try
Yeah.
to picking up bigger fish all the time, and it's fun. And that's where brings me to now, right? I just 2017, and now I just been doing it for since then, and got into a Hobie and never looked back, and I just collected a ton of tackle since then, and
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, it never stops.
never stops. Yeah.
It's so depressing and exciting all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's always like I went and got tackle this weekend at an expo. It's really cool, and then you come home and are like, "Well, shit, I've got nowhere to put the rest of this crap."
Yeah.
Like, it's just so much gear.
Yeah, I've
Well,
been
what
like cleaning out stuff that I bought like 3 or 4 years ago that are still like freshly packaged and hadn't
Yeah.
touched. I'm like, oh man,
Oh,
what
it
a
gets to a
waste.
point sometimes where you're like, I'm looking for stuff, and I was like, I know I have it. It's somewhere here, and you
Yeah.
got
Throwing
Oh
stuff
man,
around everywhere.
I found a pack of. I've been meaning to go buy. I swap all the trebles on a lot of my walking baits and stuff.
Yep.
Apparently, I bought all new hooks to do that with last year, and forgot, and bought them again and swapped them. And then today I moved my desk and they slid out from under my, like 2 packs of them slid out from under my desk, and I was like, oh,
There they are.
hey,
There they
money
are.
saved.
Yeah.
Well, what's your Hobie of choice?
I got a Pro Angler 14.
Nice.
Yeah. I like fishing lakes more than anything else, and
Yeah.
it's just it's comfortable, and I can carry a lot of tackle with me, and some people don't like to carry a lot of tackle. I mean, I'm not that type of person. I really do like carrying different options. I hate retying things. Um,
Yeah.
I've kind of learned that you know I can carry at least 13 rods without it feeling in the way. You know,
So you
um,
can have multiple things rigged up and
yeah, and it's just a grab and go.
yeah.
So there's certain fisheries you can get away with. A lot of fisheries you can get away with much less, but I don't know. I always feel like if I ever run, like for example, at Caddo, I was catching them on basically 3 setups, right, the first day, and
Yeah.
then all it's no secret. I loved fishing the jerkbait, and I carried it with me all the time. I couldn't get anything going all through practice and into leading into the tournament with that, and I almost left it behind on day 2. And I was like, man, I'm trying to downsize. I don't want to take that many
Yeah.
rods. I was like, I really haven't got anything going. But then I was like, I don't know, man. I was like, nah, I always carry this. And I was like, just leave it in just leave it in the lineup,
Yeah.
man. So, and who's to say that, jackhammer or a square bill or something wouldn't have worked, just as well. But, I'm really good with the jerk bait, and I left it in there, and I'm glad I did. So, but
Yeah.
Are,
I carry all that stuff with me just because of in the back of my mind, I'm like, damn it, I should have brought it.
exactly. I was about to ask you, do you do it out of that mindset of
Yeah.
like I'd rather know that I've got it just in case than
Yep.
not have it? Because that's usually
Yeah.
how, like, I'm like you just said, and I'm sure lots of tournament anglers and or anglers in particular are the same way. I'll rig up 9 rods and I'll catch them on 3,
Yep.
but come tournament day, I'm still taking those 9 rods, like just in case, because I
Yep.
don't want to retie it.
Yep. No, and the other thing too is something happened. I usually don't get backlashes, but transporting things in the truck, and you get these nicks in the line sometimes, and it's happened to me before where I made this really long cast. I got a bite on the jerk bait. I go to pull on it, and the line broke halfway,
Oh
out on
no.
the cast, and I was like,
Yeah.
dude, that was, something happened somewhere, and and you lose a ton of line. And the jerkbait rod that I use, I think it's a shallow spool,
Yeah.
so you lose a lot of line. All of a sudden, it's like, dang it,
You don't got enough left to even
yeah,
like make
you
a
got,
full cast.
yeah. So
I've done that
you
too
I
many
just don't
times.
want to, yeah, I don't like to run in those, and I just like to have different options. So
No, that's pretty cool, man. Well, so you started back in 17 doing it. When did you first have your first success? For like maybe your first tournament that you would consider successful, whether that was cashing a
mm,
check or just thinking you had, okay, I've got it figured out.
yeah, I think it was 1 year later, like in 2018, I believe it was, and I think it was a cats event where I think I placed fourth. And that was like my first, like, I got up there, and against a pretty good field at the time. These guys were pretty good. They've been doing it for like years because cats have been going on forever. Um,
Yeah.
and
I
so
mean,
they
you're talking like 100 people somewhere around that range,
yeah, and
right?
those
Yeah.
events were 100 people. So it
Yeah.
was, and being able to place that high, I was pretty happy about it.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
then so I started doing more of those, and then finally I started seeing this national trail stuff come up, and I went to I think it was the Bassmasters at Lake Fork, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
yeah, I don't know, I placed somewhere in the top 10,
I
you
think we
know.
both went to that one,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I
Jimmy.
don't like to
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
It did not go my way. Practice was fantastic, but
I mean, it's Fun Lake, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it was I don't remember if it was 2020 or
that was 20.
Yeah.
That was
it
the
was
first
20.
year of
Yeah, that was
The
pressers.
Bassmaster
Yeah.
Kayak
It was
Series.
like right before pandemic started, I think. Like
Yep.
like
Yep.
like
Well,
a
So
it had
couple weeks before.
started, but we were in Texas, and in Texas, no one
Yeah.
cares. That's why we went to Texas. Like everywhere else is starting to slow it up, and we're like, Texas isn't.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that was my real first taste, I think, national level. And then I was like, man, I want to do more of these. But
Yeah.
it's a bit tough sometimes, to got to travel the nation and get to all these events. It gets costly, and and especially if you have a family, they're complaining you're not home, and
Hmm.
which it's understandable. So you got to find that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, man.
Yeah.
And especially, well, we'll get into it. Obviously, you're here, so everybody know, you won the event. But if you're taking it as serious as you can, but you've still got all your other obligations at home and work, and then you win an event like this, and then you're like, you have to change the game plan because it's like, okay, because now I've got a real run at Angler of the Year, or
Mhm.
so you're like, oh well,
Yeah.
game
Now
plan
you
just
qualified
changed.
for the TOC and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like, well, my season just got busier.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Exactly.
before we get into, I was gonna let you tell everybody, or you and Garrett, since I haven't been on there, kind of talk about what Caddo and Bisteneau is. But one last question, just because it's always a hot topic: live scoping or no?
Only on day 2.
Okay,
Not day 1. Yeah, day 1 it was pretty much flipping all day,
gotcha.
just
Okay,
hitting a lot of trees. Yep.
so you're very pro for. You think it's? Do you think it's changing the sport for the better? Do you think it's making it more difficult?
Man, that's a hot topic, man. And it's one of those things where personally, uh, you can argue both sides, I think, and because
Absolutely.
it definitely, here's the deal, is like it, it's going to elevate everybody that learns how to use it. It's gonna elevate your game. You know what I mean? You're just gonna be able to catch a bigger, more better caliber fish.
Yeah.
But the people that are, I feel like the people that really, really don't like it, um, it's I think it's because it's just going to make it that much harder to chase down the people that are just already far. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It really makes it puts a big gap in between of that. So um sometimes I enjoy just fishing without it, because yeah, you do find yourself staring at the screen a lot, especially when you first get it. because
that
yeah,
guy right there has got active target, and I've seen it on his kayak like twice. Like he just leaves it at home. He's like, nah, never mind.
yeah, no, and I just think it definitely changed the sport, man. It's a different type of you everything we knew about fishing, you start seeing the things that are you're like, oh, these are myths, man. Like these fish are
Yeah.
not really doing this stuff, and you're starting to pick up on things that um you can do that people that don't have it, you can, you'll have an advantage for sure. You're gonna have
Yeah.
an advantage.
It
Absolutely.
it's a tool. I get a lot of the people, complaining and worried about it. Some of them, it's another expensive piece of gear that you've got to have to be competitive. But I've kind of turned to that corner where it's like, if you're going to be competitive, you've got to be willing to
Well,
make
what
those moves.
what I tell people is like, look, it didn't change. It only changed at the competition level, right? So at the competition level, if you want to do competitive fishing and you want to say that, oh, you're not, enjoying Mother Nature because you're constantly looking at the screen. It's like, dude, that's two completely different
Yeah.
worlds. Like competitive fishing, it's like you're stepping into a ring, MMA fighting, right? Everybody's out for themselves, and you're going to use the tactics that you need to win that are within the guidelines.
Yep.
And so, you want to talk about enjoying fishing and stuff, then that's great. Go on a non-tournament day and don't use it and enjoy it, right? But
Yeah.
there's just different worlds for that. And you stepping into the world of tournament fishing, you you're gonna have to know that those tools are available for everyone. So you're gonna either use it or not. And at the end of the day, the fishery may call for it and or may not, and you may not have to use it because during the spring you can get away with being able to be successful without it much more than you can during the summer and the fall, right? And leading into the winter. But in the spring, it uh, lessens the gap because a lot of the fish are up on the shallow, so you
Yeah.
can get away with not having to use it. But you get curveballs of like cold fronts and things like that, and you have someone that's really experienced with it. They got that little niche and little advantage to be able to pull away or do something, right, to take advantage of that. But at the end of the day, I don't. I think it's better. I think it makes it. I think it makes tournament fishing more fun because you're
Yeah.
gonna have a tool that it's not always gonna work. It's like the umbrella rig when it first came out. I mean, it worked all the dang time, right? But now it doesn't. It's not as effective. You know what I mean? There are times it's gonna work, but the live scope, I can tell you that since I've gotten it, there's times that it will burn you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it will
For
burn you.
sure.
And so when you know how to distinguish when to turn it on and when not to, that's the key thing. That's where you're gonna take it to that next level, right? So
Oh yeah. I think in the kayak world, in the boat world, it's obviously different. But I think in the kayak game, the people doing the best with it are probably using it to effectively eliminate and cover water. Where because I know a lot of people that use it that don't just sit on the screen the whole day. It's like,
yeah,
okay, here they are, and they'll be on the screen, but not like you see, like Dustin
like
Connell, Jacob Wheeler, these guys
With their
offshore
head
staring.
down all day.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
they don't. It's like, when's the last time you looked up when you were driving the boat? That was it. Like, and I don't feel like there's a lot of people doing that in the kayak world yet. I think most of these guys are doing it to effectively get on more fish versus use it
yeah.
to actually catch the fish.
Right, right. No, I agree. I think yeah, it's just to each their own, right? People are gonna have we're all gonna have different opinions about it, and but I certainly think that before anyone speaks badly about it, they need to try it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like complaining about politics but never voting, right?
Yeah.
Yep,
So it's
I'm
like
with you.
until you try it, will you understand what it's all about, and then it is what it is. But yeah,
Oh yeah, and my,
Yeah. I
my
mean,
final thing with it too is, if you don't like it, don't fish the tournament. Shut up.
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I've
don't
had
fish
it
tournaments.
for over a year now. I guess a year, and I maybe have caught one or two fish using it. Like,
I feel like
Yeah,
you've only used it like 5 times though.
I mean, I put some hours in it, but not as much as I need to actually be successful
Effective.
with it.
Yeah. Well, we'll get off the live scope talk. I just wanted to, interesting take on it.
Yep.
I'm kind of seeing how many tournaments I hear about it actually becoming a factor at all in our little neck of the woods.
Yeah.
But so we'll get into it. So tell us a little bit about Caddo and Bisteneau. Kind of describe the layout of the place. Most people probably know, but you can explain it for anybody that doesn't know the area.
hmm Yeah. So I mean, what is it? I think it's 25,000 acres total.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
natural lake or
Yeah. It's a natural
uh,
lake. I think the average depth is about 4.5 feet, and there's some deep water, but when you factor all the actual shallow water, it really cancels out any depth, So
yeah.
Right.
4.5 feet deep, natural lake. Um, and then you got some backwaters that lead into some really tight spots, um, and of course the whole thing surrounded with cypress trees, right? Like it
Everywhere.
looks so fishy. Like it's overwhelming for the first time you see it because you just don't know where to start, and everything looks good. So uh, biggest, the it's a big body of water, and I fished mainly the main lake. So most of the lake it has some open water, and then you have the northern section where it's like super dense, and you can get up into like the rivers and stuff like that.
Are you
So
talking about Caddo or Bisteneau?
no,
Which
Caddo,
Caddo? Yeah, yeah,
I actually have never seen Bisteneau, so I didn't even fish Bisteneau because Bisteneau, um, I've I only had 2 days of 2.5 days of practice.
yeah,
And honestly, like whenever we split lakes up like that, as much as I sometimes you hear one lake's fire over the other, if I have more experience on one than the other, it doesn't make sense for me to split my time,
yeah.
um, and not really dial things in because I already know Caddo, so I just stuck with it.
No,
Makes
you know
yeah.
sense.
so
I'd do
and
the
I
same
knew it
thing.
was, yeah, and fishing was pretty good from what the reports out there that you can find right online,
Yeah.
like Spark and Wildlife, and forums and things like that. You can get on and see what fishing is like, and as long as it's not like terrible, right? It's spring, so you can figure something out on either of these lakes. So didn't want to split my time up, so I can't talk on Bisteneau because I've never been on it. I
I think
just
I've
know that,
done it once or twice, and that
yeah,
was. But I
historically
spent
it's,
most of my time on Caddo, and
yeah, I think it looks the same. I'm sure it's swampy, that's from what
yeah,
I hear, and it's gonna look very similar. Both the difference is that Caddo has half the lake is in Texas and the other half is in Louisiana.
yeah,
Uh, the Texas side, I like Caddo because you got Texas Park and Wildlife that manage the Texas side.
yeah.
Bistineau doesn't have that, so I feel like the percentage of fish versus the two lakes, I think it's going to be more on Caddo.
And for anybody that doesn't know, the Texas Park and Wildlife, what they do to take care of the fisheries in the state of Texas, there's a reason
Beer. Yeah,
all the teens, big bass, are coming out of Texas. The share
Yeah,
lunker program, everything they do, every other state in the country should follow suit with it. Like
yeah.
Jesus.
Texas Park and Wildlife does an amazing job to make sure that pretty much most of the lakes on Texas are stocked with very big bass.
yeah. I
So,
mean, you hear of, like teeners coming out of random lakes out there. You're just like,
oh
how
yeah,
do they even
yeah.
get there?
That's what Uh, I'm not gonna put the lake on blast, but everybody would already know it anyway. But last
Mhm.
year, one of the lakes just kept just 13-pounder, 14-pounder, two 16
Oh
pounders.
yeah, and
Just
it's still doing it. So
yeah. And
it's
we
like,
one of our other hosts on our other show, oh Lord, Dustin Nichols.
yes,
I
yep,
cannot think of what his podcast is called. I'm sorry, doo doo. But he's the saltwater guy, but he
yep.
he bass fishes,
hmm
and I was asking him, I was like, hey man, I want to come out there and do a trip, and I told him that lake, and he's like, dude, f that lake. He was like, no, 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 no. You pass like five even better lakes on the way there, but nobody talks about them. He was like, give me 2 days, I can put you on the same fish, nowhere close to that lake. And of course, work never made it out there. But I
Wow,
texted him
yeah.
last night and was like, hey, this year, you say when, I'm coming.
Yeah,
big old
yeah.
fishes.
That lake has been low key for many years, and it was like, it accidentally discovered, and then it was blasted. But I saw the whole story behind that, and it was something that wasn't intentional. The person, it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I feel like Texas is a place that can happen and it'll be fine though, because
yeah,
their wildlife program takes care of everything so well.
yep, exactly.
Like
So
those fish aren't getting like taken out in cold. Like
right,
they're getting taken out and then used for breeding purposes and then to make
and
more giant babies. Like
yeah,
go
yeah, no,
for
and they
it.
replace them. Yeah, they let some of those go back after a while into the same lake. So yeah, it's pretty good. And then so going back to cattle, that's why I stuck to cattle, right?
Yeah.
Because it's got a it's got a good management system on the Texas side. So I've been successful on the Louisiana side too. So, but um, yeah, that's pretty much layout, right? 50-50, half on Texas, half on Louisiana. Bisteneau is all on Louisiana side. They look the same. They're all full of cypress trees. The water clarity is usually pretty decent. It looks tannic, right? It looks
Yeah.
dirty from a distance, but when you get up on it, you actually realize you can see down like, pretty good. Depending,
Yeah.
right, if you get rain or not. We got some rain, so some places did get muddied up a little bit, and but the clarity's pretty good.
So real clean, typically cypress swamp. It's a flipping man's dream. So
Yep.
It is. Yeah.
yeah, I want to go down there so bad. I don't know why I haven't made that trip. I've never heard any bad stories. I just don't ever go. I don't know.
It's like a
There's so many.
shallow water fisherman's paradise.
Yeah, I've had
Yeah.
a bunch of buddies be like, "I don't know why you haven't been. That's your game. Like, you like
Yeah.
flipping cypress trees. That's all that there is down there. Like, go figure it
Yeah,
out."
I know Steve from Hobie, takes all these pictures right when we're out there, and he posts some really nice ones, from the lake, and you can see like the water clarity of the lake and overshot shots from the drone, those are
Yeah.
really cool to go look, to get an idea of what the lake really looks like. And
Yeah, and
but
we're going to post up a link to it for everybody listening. When you
yeah,
get through listening to the show, go down in the description. We're going to have links where to follow you, and then to check out Hobie's and check out all the cool pictures and everything from the event.
yep,
But
hmm
so you've got some history here. So
yep.
how did you approach your 2.5 days of pre-fishing? Did you fish in some history? Did reading those reports change your game plan initially at all? Like, tell me about it.
No, no, I mean, so historically, first time that I was on Caddo, I showed up to it with no practice for a KBF event, and was able to pull 97 inches on day one. It was
Solid.
good. That was good. That was good enough for like third place, I think, that day. And then the second day is I was like, well, I'll try to run the same stuff, and it was much more difficult the second day. So I didn't do as good. And then I realized I was fishing the Louisiana side at that time, and I started realizing, I was like, man, this fishery is kind of unique. You can't really run over the same stuff every day. Um,
Yeah, because
so
most of those fish are going to be like resident
yes,
fish, right? Like they're
yeah,
just going to stay where they're at because there's
yeah,
nowhere really to go. There's like,
yeah, no, exactly. And sometimes when you have boat tournaments and things are mixed in, like, for example, we had a boat tournament during this. We had 3 boat tournaments that were going on at the same time while our event was going on Saturday. So
wow.
you got a lot of fish to get plucked out of those trees, and if it's in your area, you don't have those fish anymore. And so, and I think total there was like 400 to 500 vessels. I mean, between kayaks and boats on that lake. Um,
So what he's saying is there's just a little company, just
yeah,
a
just a little
little
bit.
company,
Yeah.
a little bit of competition.
Yeah.
I'm busy.
So yeah, some of those areas get hit pretty hard, and it makes it hard to go back day two and really have that same success. But yeah, no, it was pretty. I think I went in day one, and my goal was to just cover a lot of water. Um, the thing with this lake is, if you read up on it, it's all a numbers game of hitting trees. So you got to find that. There's a lot of dead water, and there's millions of trees, and so like your whole day can go in like a 200-yard stretch if you're trying to hit every tree. You know what I'm saying?
You almost got to have like a system for hitting the trees, like
Yeah,
hit, and then move to the next one. Hit, and just keep going.
And
yeah,
especially if you're, and I wanted to get into this when we start talking about your days, is I know a lot of guys that, I mean, I do the same thing. Like when you're flipping cypress trees, it's not like flip to the face that's facing you. It's left side, right side, face, move around, back side,
yeah,
side to side. Like I might flip one tree 6 times, just to make sure, because they sometimes want it a particular way. And
yep,
like you said, there's a million trees to do that on. You start doing the math. It's like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going
yeah.
to screw this up.
I've got 500 trees left, and I'm moving at 2 trees an hour.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. No, I think if if you do your research, I think it's about 50 to 100 trees per bite, average.
Wow.
So like you got to hit 50 trees at least pretty quick, and then you could get a bite. And sometimes it's 100 trees you got to hit, right, to get a bite. You only need 5, but you get in a productive area, of course that number can shrink, right? You can hit
Yeah.
like my day 2, I got in a really productive area, and they were biting, and I didn't have to flip 50 trees, but sometimes you have to go through a lot of trees to finally get to where there's a bigger population of fish.
I mean, we're talking about easily 1,000 casts a day. Like,
Oh man, yeah, easy. Like
I would have to have shoulder or wrist surgery after that event.
yeah, no, I
Straight up.
mean, there was several people that I talked to, and they're like, "Dang, my shoulder's freaking sore after day 1." They're just
Yeah.
you're just and
Golly.
Right is setting in.
with the field that's big and there's other people fishing, uh, you know, you're pedaling really fast to the next tree, even though it's not that far. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to make sure that if you have a person on the opposite end coming, you don't want to take your sweet time because you might miss the juice.
Yeah.
So it's a 2-day race and 1,000 casts. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah,
So yeah, no, go back to it. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah. No, so day 1, I went to an area that was pretty good, and throwing a couple of different baits. The flipping's always going to work, so I didn't really focus too much on trying to flip. I was trying to find a different type of bite, just as a backup bite. So the wacky, of course, cypress trees and wacky is always, they go together,
Yeah.
and flipping, creature baits. So you do that enough, you hit enough trees, you're gonna get 5 bites. So I knew that going in. So I was trying to, crankbaits, hybrid hunters. I was trying all kinds of different type of baits that you just normally do. Cypress Italian that I was trying out, trying to see if I could get that mega bass battalion bite going, and then I try to swim bait, bigger swim bait along the,
Mhm.
the trees. And but at the end of the day, after practice, man, I was like, dang, the freaking wacky and this stupid, pitching stuff. Like it doesn't matter, all these things you try, it's just that just works there,
Yeah.
period. So, I went with it day 1, and knew that I was going to have those two things tied up. And then I wanted something a little bit faster. Of course, depending on the conditions, I was looking at that, and I had a jackhammer and a spinner bait and a
Yeah.
floating worm that I like to throw. I like throwing a floating worm.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
little more subtle. And so I was targeting shallow fish because I didn't know whether these fish were going to be spawning naturally. March, Texas, you got
Yeah.
fish spawning.
What kind of like water temps and all that do you have?
No, I think when I got there in practice, they were at 65.
Wow.
Um, they fluctuate depending on the area, 63 to 65. Um,
Yeah.
and then, there was one day that it got, depending on certain areas, you could probably find some water that was in the 70s,
Yeah.
or
And
low,
you're
low
coming off
70s.
of a full moon a couple
Yeah.
days before the
Yeah.
event too.
But
So
it's a tough lake to figure out. I don't fish for bedding fish very much.
yeah.
I don't really like to. I mean, if I see one that's big, I'm like, hey, I'll try to, I know what to do to try to catch it. But
Yeah.
um, this lake is tough because you don't see a lot of beds. they lay sometimes some of their eggs, they lay them on the root systems, so they're not
Mhm.
you're not seeing like all these beds everywhere like you do uh, in some of these lakes. So, and then everything I was catching, I couldn't tell. They didn't have their tails or any signs of that they were bedding or anything like
Yeah.
that. And then I did catch one out deep. Noticed that it already had a tail that was kind of healing a little bit, and so I was like, man, some of
Already
these fish
spawned.
they already spawned, and then
Yeah.
you hear, you're loading up, you're hearing locals talk around you, saying, the spawn happened in February and things like that, and you're just like thinking to yourself, like, man, I really can't figure out at what stage this lake is at, like, is it really far in? Because you'll talk other people saying like, oh, I found a bunch of beds up in the northern section. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not where I'm at. I'm not seeing any of that. So
You probably
yeah,
had
it was.
a big mixture of everything going on at the
Yeah, I
same
think I think it was a good mixture of things going. So it was hard to tell, but I was just targeting fish that were I noticed my bites were coming bigger bites were coming off in the little bit more deeper trees, like 4 foot, closer to
Yeah.
the boat lanes. And
Mhm.
there's not a lot of contours on that lake, so it's not like you can look at and say, oh, there's a flat over there, they're going to be staging up there's a lot of that.
The whole thing is a
So
flat.
Yeah.
yeah. So, but you find little things that that the trees kind of make a point, and they,
Mhm.
you can find areas that are getting a little bit more sun, that you can tell that maybe it's a good, more of a spawning area. And if there was fish coming up, you can catch them. Try to figure out if you can catch them before, or catch the ones that are already, coming off. But I
Yeah.
found that most of my bigger fish were coming off the boat lane trees, and people know to check those things. So, day one, that's why it was like that. It was a good 20 something bags in the 90s, and everybody was catching probably in that mid range. And I know some people were catching them shallow, but for me, once I figured out that I was getting key bites on the deeper trees, I was like, I'm gonna have my setups that I was using, which was little creature bait, and I didn't have jerk bait going into it as even
Yeah.
as a thought. I don't even think I threw it day one. I didn't even try it because I was getting so many bites just flipping a quarter ounce. I was flipping a 3/16s in practice. I think someone asked me, they're like, "Hey, were you throwing a what weight size?" And I think I said 3/16s, but I forgot I had updated that for tournament day because the wind was picking up. So
Mhm.
I wanted it a little bit
Slightly
heavier.
heavier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you
So
want something with like a slower rate of fall fishing those cypress trees.
yeah, yeah. I had gone lighter, but then going a little bit faster. I felt
You'd
like
like,
they could still see it, but it would get a reaction bite out of them,
yeah.
and so I just didn't want to spend too much time waiting for something to drop. The wacky was
Yeah.
just driving me insane, on those 4 feet. So I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna throw this if they're biting something else.
Yeah. It gets it done out there though. You hear a
Oh, it
lot of
does,
people catching them on
absolutely.
a wacky rig out there.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many times these fish see that, they're just crazy about a Senko there. So,
Yeah.
It
um,
still blows my mind that Gary Yamamoto makes that bait. That's the stick bait, and all these years and all this fishing pressure, and it doesn't matter.
it
That
doesn't
bait
matter. Yep.
always works.
Yeah.
Yep.
Always produce.
It always produces, man. And yeah, so I had those two setups really that were working for me, the wacky and the pitching a quarter ounce little creature bait. Now, I really don't think it mattered, so it's
Yeah.
just as long
I mean,
as
at that point, like you said, with the fall, getting the fall rate down so quick, it's probably just smacking them right in the head. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
immediate
You're
reaction.
getting more
But
reaction by yeah.
the reports that were you would read like on like say Texas Park and Wildlife, you go on there and just kind of read what it tells you. That was actually accurate in the sense that you did have to get that bait really close to the tree.
Mhm.
So because if you were just off like a foot off of it, you know what I'm saying, 12
Yeah.
inches to the side of it, um, you weren't getting as many bites. I'm sure you get still bites, but
Yeah.
you were capitalizing on more key bites when it was right next to the tree.
Yeah, like when I was down there, I had to hit the tree, like use it as a backboard
Yeah.
basically, and then just let it slide down the tree.
Yep, that's
That's
what
the
I
only
did.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I did pretty much. Uh, day one.
yeah,
That's what I did, and it just made it easier. You don't have to be trying to hold it, stop it. You
yeah.
know, it was perfect. So, but day two was a little bit more difficult because I tried the same thing, and 2 hours in, I think I only had one fish or two fish, and they were tiny, and I was like, man, by this time I was already either four fish in or at my limit compared to yesterday. So I was
So
like, man, I gotta figure something out because if I continue down this path, I'm just not feeling that I'm gonna get a bag that's gonna be worthy of competing.
yeah.
And honestly, I wasn't even thinking about
So you were
winning
sitting in sixth place,
day
about
one.
yeah, like almost 7 inches behind first place, which almost had 100 inches. So
Yeah.
were you at that point where you kind of like either I've got to full set
So
like go big to get the win,
yeah,
or
yeah. I mean, I thought about it, right, and I was like, well, I don't know. I was like, I didn't really say that I couldn't get the win, but I knew that I had to have a big day two.
yeah,
And so I was like, I did feel the pressure when I got to my ramp, and I was thinking, man, I'm gonna run the same water. And I did this the last time, and it didn't work out for me for one of the events. And I said, but man, it'd be risky too to just go to somewhere else and with the amount of pressure that was the day before. So I was like, I feel like it'll be the same. I was like, I'm just gonna have to improvise when I'm out there and try to figure out if I have to vacate the area. I'll move. But I knew that I
yeah.
had to cover a lot of water to find those fish, and I went over my same area, man, and it wasn't really that good. So
Hmm,
and I was trying the same baits that I did day one, but
yeah,
I did get a promising bite kind of early with the flipping one, and so I was
yeah.
like, okay, maybe I'll get, it's a deal. But but the same that 4.5 feet wasn't producing fish for me, so I was like, shoot, maybe I got to go more shallow. Maybe they pulled up, even though it's still cooler, right? Because there was like a
Yeah.
little cold front. So I went
So
to go check.
what was like temperature and weather wise? What changed day one to day two? Like,
So from day one, I think the temperatures for the day, um, I think it was in the like it was mid 70s or low 70s, and we
yeah.
did get a little bit of sun. Um, it was
So
supposed to
mostly like
be
overcast.
mostly overcast. We did get a little bit of sunshine that came through,
Hmm,
and I think that helped the bite.
yeah.
And that wind didn't pick up till way later in the day. Like it really started howling towards the end of the day.
Okay.
On day one, and on day two, the wind was forecasted not to be as strong as day one, but it was. I mean, it was right out the gate. It was.
Like
It was.
right
It
at
was blowing. Yeah, and it
yeah.
was. And it was actually pretty. I felt like it was stronger that day. So, um, I, alre- I said, let me do the same thing. I'm gonna run with the same baits, but it wasn't happening. And then I said, well, let me check shallow real quick, and then I did that, and I was like, no, they're not shallow because I'm not getting the same, I'm not getting any bites shallow.
Yeah.
I was kind of like talking to myself, and I was thinking, I was like, all right, it's cloudy. You got the water's being disturbed quite a bit. You got all these waves. I was like, the reaction bite, I haven't tried it. I've been plastics this whole time.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me put away all these plastics and let me try the reaction. And now I actually was going to go to the spinner bait. And I think I threw it a couple times, and it wasn't feeling right. And I was like, man, I did good one time throwing the jerk bait. I was like, I know it hasn't worked, but so I took it out,
Gotta
and I
keep it
went to,
honest.
yeah, I got to keep it honest. And I threw it, a couple trees, and I think on the fifth cast, man, like a 18, hit it. And I
Hmm.
was like, okay. I was like, man, and that was like in, I don't know, 3 feet of water,
Oh
right?
wow.
So yeah,
So
I threw
like
the
in
jerk bait.
between your shallow and your deeper
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, because I was already kind of coming out of the shallow because I was like in a foot and a half trying to check
Yeah.
for things, and so I was already making my way back. But you got to make your way back through a bunch of trees, anyways, right? Just
Yeah.
to get to deeper water. So, in one of those, I was like, man, this little stretch, try the jerk bait, throw it out. I was just basically just kind of like underhanding it, just a
Mhm.
couple spots, and one of them
He is
snagged it.
literally flipping a jerkbait.
Jerkbait.
That's
Yep.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not a jerkbait guy, so you're blowing my mind. Like I'm listening to
Yeah.
this, and I'm like, what? Like,
Well, and when you think about when that water, you don't have a lot of sunlight right now, and the wind's blowing really hard. They don't know what the hell they're seeing, right? There's just something's coming by them. They can't
Yeah.
hear you anymore. You're a lot more stealthy. So that whole idea about being quiet and being precise on your cast goes out the window when it's those type of conditions. So I was just kind of throwing it out there, and then I finally got one, and I said, you know what? At that point I had already run my stretch, and I said, I haven't been to the other side. Let me cross this boat lane and go check those trees that I saw a bunch of boats the day before.
Yeah.
And man, I started going through those trees, and those were like in the 4.5 to 5 foot range, and it was like an 18, and it was like a 16 here and there, and then I caught a 20, and then so
and
at
here
that
we
time
go.
I was like,
Yeah.
I never checked the leaderboard. Like I just don't like checking the leaderboard. I like
Yeah.
to just go fish, and I usually fish very hard to the end. And when I checked the leaderboard, I was like, man, I'm gonna get discouraged, but at least it gives me an idea if I have a chance. And then I think I was still in six with that 20 that I had. And but then I noticed like everybody was stagnant, right? Everybody was kind of just there, and I was like, okay, I was like, I still got a 13 incher in here, and I can cull that, and that'll get me within like 4 inches, of the three to
Mhm.
4 inches from these guys. And then
Yeah.
I was like, man, if I could catch two more 20s, right? I was like, holy crap, if I catch two more 20s, but I was like, man, that's a lot to ask for if I've only been catching, I was like,
16s and
yeah,
8.
16s and 18s, and so I said, but you know what? Let's just keep covering water. And I was like, and then I think shortly after that, I caught another 20, and I was like, all right, okay, now I got a chance. I was
Yeah.
like, I got two 20s on the board, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna really make a run at this. Now I'm really trying to catch a lot of fish and just covering a lot of trees. And I started pedaling really fast, kind of picked up the pace, and I was going through trees, and I started culling,
Staying with the same bait though, right?
staying with the same bait. At that point, once I had caught that first fish on the jerk bait, I never touched another rod. Like I just went with the jerk bait the
Are
whole
you are
time.
you don't have to, and I'd love to hear about it after the show if you don't want to say it. But what's your jerk bait of choice?
But I mean, a lot of people know it's make a bass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's make a bass.
A Vision 110 or
Yeah,
110
Vision
Junior.
110. I use both
Yeah.
for the most part. I do like to use the smaller one, but it just depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what
So
what's your so this goes like I said, I'm not a jerk bait guy. I was told Garrett it's a bait that it's on my list. I've got to learn. How you're fishing it is completely outside of anything I've even like studied and read into.
Yeah.
So like what kind of like cadence, what kind of retrieve, like how are you doing this effectively in these areas? Like we've talked about in Caddo where
yeah,
it's relatively shallow, as far
yeah.
as we're speaking, and trees everywhere. So how does this work? Walk
Yeah.
me through your process.
A lot. First of all, your setup has to be right. You can't.
Yeah.
Most jerkbait rods are 6/8. You know, Um, I prefer a 7 foot one off the kayak because I'm never gonna have really the luxury to jerk the bait
Yeah.
downwards,
Stand up and do it.
stand
You're
up,
doing it
and I
mostly to the side.
to the side, and so the length doesn't really matter. But you really don't want to get past 7 foot like that. It's unnecessary. But with the 7 foot, I have a little bit more of a distinct casting distance, and I do not like micro guides, but I do like it on my jerkbait because I feel like it just lets me cast a little more accurate. And I
Makes
use an
sense.
Aldebaran. I think your real setup for that is super important because it's got to be light. And usually when you have a light reel, it usually costs more. And you're paying for the luxury of being lighter because it's higher quality components, right? And then also is you got to make sure that it's a shallow spool because you don't want to get a lot of backlashes. And
Right.
and then your rod's got to be light. Anytime You go to lighter rods, there's a difference in, we're talking about ounces here, right? But when you're talking about all day, with one hand holding that thing, it gets tiring. So your setup has to be right, and then your line choice, of course. You hear a lot about 7-8 pounds. I mean, we're not doing that here, right? Because we're
Yeah.
around trees. So um, you can bump that up to 15, 16 pound,
Oh,
and,
wow.
and still get away with it, right? But
Yeah.
I did not. I still had it on 12-pound test line.
Yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say like 10 to
yeah,
12 is probably what I would have been
yeah.
comfortable.
This is
I
all new information for me. I'm loving all of this. Like
yeah.
what I thought I knew about what I needed to learn was all wrong. So thank you. Continue.
And everybody's got a different way of throwing jerk baits, and it depends on their fishery, right? Sometimes you do have to drop the line size and go to those 8 to 10 pound deals, depending on the fishery. But here, and most of the time, I'm very successful when it's bad conditions. When you have a lot of wind and that disturbance in the water,
Yeah.
they're not gonna see that line, and they're not gonna see what it is. They're just reacting to it. So um, but you're not jerking downwards because you don't want that thing to hit the bottom. That you know what I'm saying. So you got to do it up. You know what I'm saying.
Mm.
Jerking up
Get
and then
it down a little bit and then pop it up.
yeah, you get it
Right.
down. You jerk it down a little bit, get it, and then you jerk it up, whatever the case is, depending on the depth. Um, and that's what you do when you're like in 2 foot of water, right? So
Yeah.
but most of my day was spent at 4.5 to 6 foot. Once I got those once I realized that the caliber of fish was better on that end, I wasn't catching like the little ones anymore. It was like I was throwing back 18s constantly because I had already maxed out, and I was looking for trying to cull an 18 out, and
I hope I have a day like that one day.
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a lot of fun, and the jerkbait bite is definitely fun when you get on it like that. So but the live scope in combination with that obviously helps because you can see the root systems and you can kind of guide things. But
Yeah.
it's not easy, man. It's a lot. It sounds you got to have really precision cast, right, to get it
Mhm.
right next to the tree. Because treble hooks, man, the minute you're around Spanish moss,
Oh,
like
yeah.
yeah, and
It's a nightmare.
it's a freaking nightmare because you can throw a lure up there with no hooks and it will get stuck. You know what I'm saying? Like it is going to get stuck. So like with hooks, it's just that much worse. So uh, definitely has to be precise. Most of your trees that have bigger fish, I don't know. I feel like they know that they don't get messed with if they know the tree up there is more difficult to cast to.
Yeah.
they're
So,
never they're never on the nicely open trees.
Yeah.
something to just to touch on too. So because you're having to run the trees quickly, like you were saying,
Yeah.
so you're doing all of this sitting down, not a lot of
No, yeah, no,
just
really.
staying in the seat, staying on the pedals.
Yep. Stay in the
Jesus.
seat, stay in the pedals, and then the 360 helps with that because I I don't have to make a big adjustment to wrap around. If the
Yeah.
wind blows me, I can just turn my nose right away by turning my using my 360 capabilities. So that is a huge part of the success when you're dealing with the combination of wind, and then you're fishing fast, and then you're pitching. You know what I'm saying? So that, and then of course the jerkbait has always been a fish catcher, but not until like recent years. With the
With
Bassmaster
in
events with
like, in
oh,
combination with the live
yeah,
scope
with the
stuff,
live
that's
scope
definitely
because it
takes it
allows you to
to a new
target.
level.
Yeah, you can target now stuff underwater as opposed to when before it was it was all what was visual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have a lot of components that to really make that jerkbait bite happen like that. You have to have an eye for when that's going to work and not spend too much time with that. And then also the efficiency. If you're skipping game or well, you don't skip with the jerkbait, but if your skills are not there with your cast ability, it's gonna feel very, very inefficient you know so you're going to be getting stuck. That wood on the bottom is so soft that even the bills of just crankbaits and things will freaking bury in there because it's so soft, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so you throw treble hooks at that, it doesn't take much. If you hit the tree with the treble hooks, like they just stick to it, you know. So
I got you.
yeah, you gotta make sure you cast it just right and cast past it, and stay as close as you can to the tree.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, there was plenty of times that I got tangled up, right, and I have to go over there and just get it out. But I'm so used to it that like it doesn't bother me, right? I get stuck. I'm like, well, I'm about to blow up that tree. I'm not gonna fish that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Move to the next one.
Move to the next one.
Yeah, only got 1,000 more
I know.
left.
I feel
So
like
Yeah,
throwing that's the nature of the beast, man. It's like
yeah.
I love running square bills and some of the stupidest timber, like, but I already know like it's probably not coming back. Just be
Yeah,
ready. Like I just
yeah,
keep it in the head. Don't get mad. You did it to yourself. Like,
yep.
well, as the day progressed, man, when did you start? You got your other 20. You're throwing 18s back, so you're up there. Did you ever look back at the leaderboard to see how it was shaking up for everybody else? Other people's bite continuing to get better, or did you just?
No, I did. I mean, I checked the leaderboard several times because I knew they were going to shut it off around that 2 o'clock range, and
Mhm.
I played a little defense in the sense that um, I was far behind, and I don't think in my mind, if I was up there, I was like, I don't know if if I was even on the scope for being able to come back, right, to take that to take the
yeah,
lead because there was guys up there in 188 inches, and I was like at 179 or 180, and I
Mhm.
was like, man, I had to have like almost 320s, right, because I was behind. I needed it, but the 20 and a half that I caught, the 20 and the 19 point something that I caught was enough to close the gap. And so
yeah,
like when I caught those 220s, I was thinking to myself, you know, it this this what I'm about to say doesn't matter too much to me because I always fish very hard to the end.
Mhm.
But I don't know how else everybody else fishes. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
to me, I was like, I don't want them to know that I have already taken the lead. So I held my two 20s in my live well, and I did submit that. I'll be honest, I submitted that right after the leaderboard turned off.
Yeah.
Um, I just
playing
didn't
some
want.
defense.
I played a little defense on that one, and
Yeah,
people have been doing that for a long time.
See,
Honestly,
doing it that way though is not what people have a problem with. It's the guys that don't submit their fish at all,
yeah, the
and
whole
then
oh,
whole
gotcha,
submit
yeah, yeah.
backpack.
110
Yeah,
inches at
I I, ne-
after.
I I never do that. I always submit them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've
No,
historically I've never done that. Yeah,
it's a competition. I like a little defense. You don't, like you said, you don't know if these guys are like cruising at this point, and then you throw up all your fish, and then they kick it back in gear.
right,
Like I
right.
completely agree with you, especially these
I
guys. I
mean,
mean, we're
I
talking
don't
about some
know.
of the
I feel
biggest
like
names in
natural.
kayak fishing. Like
Yeah,
they
I
can
feel
do
like
it.
Yeah,
naturally these guys know that somebody's gonna land on them, and they better fish hard the whole
yeah,
time anyway.
yeah.
So
I didn't think. You're right because that's the way I fish.
yeah,
Right. If like if I knew that I was in the lead, I'm not slowing down. That's just not how I fish. I fish to maximize my day as much as I could. So, but
exactly.
you know, I do know for a fact that naturally on a competitive person, if you know you got passed, you are gonna give it a little more umph
Yeah,
once you already know. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So, like naturally, that is just part of any competitive,
Oh yeah.
character. So I just didn't want to give that little extra edge to someone, seeing that I already had, the lead. So
Well,
um,
as the day finished, like, were you sitting pretty confident, or did you have that like,
no,
oh, somebody got it? Like,
no, I was not sitting confident. I was nervous about it because I already had done the math when it went off. It was at 188, and then when I finished doing the math on my numbers, well, I could see it in my live well, right, and my like with the 220s that I had, it was showing
yeah,
me at 191 and a quarter, I think. So I was like, man, I gotta. When it went down, I already had a 3-inch deal, and I was like, man, they have to have like 95 or 97-inch day. I was like, and if I was like, but it's a good bite right now, so it was like it could, I mean, very well happen.
could happen. Yeah,
So I was like, dang. So yeah, no, I went into I went to finish my day off, and I was like kind of nervous because I was like, man, I feel good about it. I know that it probably top 5 for sure, but someone else could have just been sandbagging all day, you know what I mean, and really
If
come
you
back.
had
Yeah,
6 other people that also had like that 95-inch day, like you were talking about,
yeah,
but it just
yeah,
wasn't the right 6 people. It's like,
right, exactly. So now when I found out when I was in there, everybody's kind of chatting it up and stuff, and I think Brandon, the second place guy, sat at my table, and I was like, I had asked him, I was like, hey, how was your day? And he was like, and I don't remember what he had, but he had like 91. He said, no, I finished my day with 91. I was like, okay, that's a big difference between what I got today and not. So like whatever he had before, I was like, I might be okay,
yeah,
Yeah.
So, um, but it really didn't sink in until I got up there, and it was like there was only us three, and I was like, ooh, I don't
I
know if
might have
they
done this.
pulled. Yeah, I might
Yeah,
have.
See, that's where I'm like, that dude just lied to me. That man caught 98 inches. He ain't catching no 91.
yeah.
And yeah, that's awesome, man. So like, well, how was the feeling? I mean,
Oh man, it's always a great feeling, especially on a field like that, right? 200 plus people. It's
Yeah.
it's those things are not easy to win. So I'm pretty grateful about that, and I'm glad it worked out, in my favor, of course. And it feels good, of course.
oh
It
yeah,
comes with a
Yeah,
pretty nice little payday. So yeah, I bet that.
yeah, no, absolutely. That always helps, right? You
Yeah.
still you still you're still not really ahead though, but
Yeah.
that's the
once you
sad truth.
yeah.
But no, man. Well, you did an excellent job, and just because we haven't touched on the numbers, we'll hit over them real quick. So,
No.
so day one, the day that social media was buzzing about, like we said earlier, 107th place had 80 inches. The top 20 all had 90. So top 21 all had 90. So it was
Yeah.
everybody was hammering out
And you had
giant bags.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people with 89 3/4.
Yeah, like just because it was below 90, you were still on them. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so day one, it took 99 3/4 to hold out top spot. You were sixth with 94 again. Still, I mean, that's still an excellent day. Day two, you were the day two lead guy with 97 1/4. So huge day on that. And then you had some guys, like you said, some guys that needed that 95-inch day, and like Garrett touched on, it just wasn't the right guys. Riser had, I think, 84 or something day one, and came in with a 95 1/2 on day two to really help bump him up the leaderboard. But the
Hmm.
totals at the end of it, man, obviously you won with 191 1/4. Fantastic 2-day finish. Brendan Prince 189 1/2. Jason Isaacs right on his tail with 189 1/4. That rounds out the top three to an excellent tournament. I mean, there were almost 2,000 fish caught in this event. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
Like,
with
lot of
200
fish.
anglers.
yeah,
So it's like almost 10 fish per angler.
yeah, and I'm sure those numbers are. I mean, think of it like you said. Think of all the fish that you were throwing back that were quality that you just didn't need, and
Yeah.
with 108 people at 80 inches, there's a lot of that going on. So there were probably twice that many fish caught in this tournament, like
Yeah.
easily.
Thousands of fish
Yeah, I
caught.
don't know what I don't know if I called more. No, I called more fish on day two, I think, right? I think it shows plus something.
Yeah, let me see if it shows.
Mhm.
Yeah, you had 12 total.
Okay.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's moving on up the board. I like that. Well, man, that's an awesome job. Definitely. Does it changing up what your plans were for the rest of the tournament year? Are you gonna have to kind of dial in and
Well,
hit the
yeah,
rest of the Hobies?
yeah, well, so I'm signed up for Sam Rayburn, so I'll be doing that event, and that'll be my third event for the Hobie. So I got a fourth one that I need to do to really, have the chance at the AOI. Um, I don't know, man. I think a buddy of mine wants to drive and do the Seminole event. So that would be probably the one that I would want to do. And then it'd be hard to hit another one after that because they're just so far.
And Seminole, I don't have any experience on Seminole, but I, I think Seminole, you could approach a bunch of it in kind of, I mean, different type of year, different time of year. I mean,
Mhm.
but you could probably approach it in a very similar fashion and
Yeah.
maybe put something together. So,
Yep. That's what I'm hoping. So yeah, that's the plan is trying to make that one. You know, of course, I have to sign up tonight actually, as a matter of fact, for the Bassmasters event.
oh yeah,
And so that's yeah, I qualified for the Bassmasters in Tennessee, Chickamauga.
Yeah.
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 Are you going to that?
So yeah, I was contemplating. Well, I was trying to figure things out with work, and it looks like I can make it. So I got to sign up
Yeah.
and do that right
Deadline's
now.
tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, it is tonight.
Well, we will let you get out of here then. So I don't want you to miss that, man. And we'll probably see you there. I'll be up there working the expo, so I'm sure
Okay.
Yeah.
you'll
I'm
be
fishing
dabbling
that
through there.
event. I'll
Yeah,
be
Garrett's
there.
fishing.
I'll be
Yeah.
there Friday night. I think is when I'm planning to go to, if I can find somewhere to stay. I haven't figured that out yet.
Well, yeah. Well, let me know if you find something because I definitely need to do that still too.
Yeah. Well,
Look for
hit me up
two
after
places.
the show or something, and
Yeah.
we'll find an Airbnb or something like that.
Sounds good.
Well, before we let you go, man, we always let everybody, take a second to thank anybody that makes it easy for them. So if you got any sponsors, family, anybody you want to thank, man, floor is yours.
Yeah. Yeah, no, everybody always, of course, the wife, right? She handles back stuff at home with the kiddos, and then I got three people that help me out really with the fishing, which is Z Pro. Um, they power all my kayak, all my electronics, and then I got my buddy Jarrett uh, from Custom J Rods Custom Builds and he went to several. So I got him to build me that jerkbait rod, and I finally was like, yeah, I don't need to look around anymore. This is it. So
Awesome.
appreciate that. And then,
So,
yep. And then I got.
Let me ask you about that right quick. Sorry.
Yeah.
That jerkbait rod you got him to build for you, is it like kind of a more kind of similar to like the Mega Bass jerkbait rods where it's got like a fast tip but moderate action still, or
Yeah. It's main. It's a North Fork blank, and he's got. We actually ordered several from them to try out, and I ended up landing with a. I don't even know the model number, and I'm pretty sure he probably doesn't want me to say it anyways. So yeah. So yeah, he built that one for me, and then once I tried it, I was like, it's perfect. This is it. So yeah, it's got a nice little tip. It's got the right action. It's not too stiff and not too parabolic. And the combination with that and changing my hooks out, it's just right.
Perfection.
So, yep. And then
So,
last
you
one
on-
is the last one is Outdoor Alphas, little tackle shop in San Antonio. They carry some of the tackle that I like to use, and so he gives me a good little discount there. So appreciate that.
Awesome, man.
Right.
Well, again, we appreciate you taking the time to come on and tell us about it. I've definitely learned a lot. I'm sure our audience has too. Glad to have you on, and good luck to you at the whatever the hell they call in that championship now. I'm just gonna call it the Classic because that's what it is. So good luck on Chick. You got any experience on Chick?
Nope.
Oh, maybe you do need to stay with Garrett then.
I've got a lot of time there, but not a whole lot of success.
Garrett is always in the right area, but someone always beats him there. He's always in the right
Okay.
area, but
All
he's
right.
always
I'm always
last one there.
around the right fish, but I just never figure it out, I guess.
Well, that's good to hear, man, because we may be rooming.
Yeah, look forward to it.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate it again. Have a good one. Go get signed up for that. You don't want to miss
Yeah.
that one. And we hope we'll be talking to you again soon, man.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate it, guys.
All right.
All right.
Peace.
Thank you.
See you.
Awesome. Another good show. I learned
Sure.
tons about jerkbaits on that one. The whole jerkbait setup is going to be coming quicker than I thought because now I'm very intrigued.
I mean, this is the time of year for it. This is
well,
like
I think about jerkbaits, and like I know guys doing it like the old school way, like he's talking about, like when you're not live scoping and it's just twitch pause, twitch pause. You're just out there hoping and praying that's what. No, when he was like, yeah, no, I'm just And that
Flipping a
flipping,
jerkbait.
you're flipping a jerkbait. Okay, I can jerkbait fish then, so I'm feeling a little more confident now. Like, wait a
Just
minute.
imagine you're flipping it. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
flipping
What's
it,
he
and
talking about?
it's
Like Target flipping it, and I'm like, I can do that. Like, yeah,
yeah,
I got a chance. So
yeah.
no,
That's
that's
awesome. That's
exciting.
cool to hear.
Yeah, that's very, and I'm sure everybody that knows how to jerkbait fish is like, shut up, Jimmy. We've been doing this forever. But whatever, I don't know it, so kiss my ass.
I don't know. You don't hear too many people talking about that,
Well,
especially
good.
around like Cypress. I mean, you do hear it, but it's most of the time you're talking about using like a fluke or something like a
Well, that's why I
soft
started. I was
plastic
like, oh wait,
jerkbait.
is he talking about a soft plastic jerkbait? Because I'm gonna feel stupid. And then he was like, yeah, no, mega bass, and I was like, oh yeah,
I
like
think he's talking. So he wants it to basically suspend right in front of their
yeah,
face in that under that caddo, under that cypress tree.
that's
So
awesome. So yeah, well we'll get right into it. We got a few more shows, a few more tournaments to talk about. Not too many. We'll run over them real quick before we
yeah,
get out of here. So first up's the 2023 Swamp Country Kayak Bass Association. It was also Caddo Bass Bisteneau. It was a Bass Nation event. 30 anglers. First place Brian Nelly with 91 and a quarter. Second place Brian Howell with 89. Third place Neil DeForest with 85. The
nice.
other big or the big event that we just went over was the Hobie event. You heard the winners and the numbers just recently. I won't bore you with those again, but John Houston, we're going to just name a few. John Hudson had a 23 and three quarter. Brandon Prince had a 23 and a half. Darren Williams had a 23. Hayden Hall had a 23 and a half. Big
Yeah,
fish everywhere. Freaking
all over the
love it this
place.
time of year. Except I don't catch those, so whatever.
Yeah.
Next up, we had the USA Bassin Jackson Kayak Trail on Nolan River Lake in Bee Spring, Kentucky. 26 anglers. First place, Rowdy Farinelli with 84 and a quarter. Second place, Jared Matthews was 83 and a half. Third place, Thompson Burry with 81 and a quarter. Moving on from there, we get the South Carolina Bass Nation Kayak Series on Lake Russell. That's where the championship was last year, right?
Yep.
Lake Russell.
Like
Awesome.
Russell.
It was also a fundraiser event for the autism anglers, who sent some awesome. There's a pun there with the spelling for autism. It's awesome. I said it again. Dadgummit. Um, they sent boxes to the
Just glanced over
anglers
that.
on that spectrum. 33 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place Shane Mills was 87. Second place Doug King with 86 and three quarter. Third place Jonathan Yoder with 85 and a half. And I think that's the one when my wife was going over telling me they had all sorts of ways to win stuff on that. Like submit a
Mm.
picture of your board with no fish on it for a prize. Submit the smallest fish for a prize.
Yeah.
Submit like something that no one else allows. Submit pictures of the fish with like if you used one of the baits of the company that sponsored the event, put it on the board with the bait for a gift card. Like all
That's
sorts of cool
cool.
stuff happened at that
Yeah.
one. But moving on from there, we had the Peach State Kayak Anglers on Lake Sinclair in Georgia. 41 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place Shez T. Hugh with 87 and three quarters. Second place Pow Tao with 81 and a half. Probably butchered that one. Sorry, buddy. Third place, Brian Butler with 80 and three quarters. Next up, we had the Tennessee Kayak Anglers trail stop on Del Hollow.
Yep.
Oh no, this is
3
good.
fish limit.
I thought this is 5 fish limit, and I was
No,
like,
it's
oh
3
god,
fish.
Del
Yeah.
Hollow is not fishing well, but no, it's 3 fish limit. So first
It's
place,
fishing
Chris.
well.
Yeah, Chris Franklin with 57 inches. That's a good 3 fish day. Second
Yeah.
place, Sam Beck with 55 and three quarters. Third place, Drew Russell with 55.
I saw a
Moving on.
couple of 21-inch smallmouth and 20-inch smallmouth in
Oh
that. So
god, I got my first 20-inch smallmouth last year.
I think
I
somebody in
need the
that had one
21.
that was almost 22 inches in that.
Jesus.
I can't remember.
Moving on from there, we had the 2023 Socks and Cookies second annual Kicking Bass for Troops March Bassness. It's a nationwide event. It raises money and care packages to be sent to deployed service members. 29 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place was Doug King in South Carolina, 85 and three quarters. Second place, Adam Estlak with 85 and a half out of Texas. And third place, Josh Duffel with 82 out of Louisiana. Just a few more. The River Runners tournament in Sussex County, Delaware. 52 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place, William Crockett with 84 and a quarter. Second place, Jim Wall with 83. Third place, Mark Kessinger with 81. Only 77 fish caught in that whole event, so tough fishing. SoCal Kayak Anglers, membership drive on Otay Lake, 80 anglers, 5 fish limit. I can't read that for some reason. Oh, there we go. My screen blurred, and it was terrible timing. All right, 5 fish limit. First place, John Cordell with 76 and a quarter. Second place, Johnny Baird with 74. Third place, Steve Buckner with 72 and a quarter. And last but not least, the Lone Star Fishing Obsessions Impromptu Bass Battle in Austin, Texas. 26 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place, Nathan Chanurlart. Yep, we're going with that. 96 and a quarter. Second place, Tyler Howell with 89 and a half. Third place, Jacob Moeller with 89. I'm going to let you read these next week just so you can experience.
You don't want me to. It'll be worse than that.
No, I'm going to let you read when the California boys show out. Because I can't ever. I know like 3 of those dudes' names. But yeah. So that's it, man. Congrats to everybody that had a good tournament weekend. Congrats to you if you didn't have a good tournament weekend. Maybe you took something away from it and learned it. Maybe you still hung out, had a good time with friends, got on the water, enjoyed the weather.
It was a good weekend for it.
Yeah. So I think next week, I'm not 100% sure. We may have, I don't know if there's an event going on this weekend, that a big one. I know next week we have the Classic.
I don't know that I remember one happening this weekend or not.
I'll look on the KBF schedule. There may be a KBF, but if we don't have anybody
I think all of theirs is like April, like every weekend of April.
Yeah, and I think that's what I remember too, is like it's dead for them right now, and then they've got 4 weekends in a row back to back. But we don't have anybody on for a big tournament that we see. We'll do some looking around for the more club level stuff. But if not, we probably have on Richard from Eastport Marina.
Yeah,
to get him
talk
to
about Del Hollow.
Yeah, hop on. If you haven't already, you need to get signed up for that. I know there's some other events going on, but we'll have a decent little payout. We'll have a bunch of giveaways, beer, good food, cheap stays. You can camp for free. You can get I think it's $50 for a spot on one of the houseboats, discounted on the cabins. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a fun time. April 22nd, 23rd. I know some of us are coming down there. I can't remember how many of the hosts are coming, but some of us are going to fish the event. Y'all are also having y'all's event that day, right?
Yeah. So CTK will have an event in conjunction with it.
Yeah. And it'll be a good time. Del Hollow is always fun. Hanging out with us is probably the highlight of it. I'm totally kidding. I think it is. We're all down there relaxing and having a good time and goofing off. It's become our annual. Like, we could stop the tournament half of it tomorrow, and I wouldn't care. It's just fun to get down there and everybody get together.
I forgot that 10 cat event that happened there this weekend. They put up those limits with a BFL going on at the same time, so there was probably 300 vessels or so out there.
God, I need to know how they were doing it. I really want to get on. I just want to catch some good fish at Del Hollow. I need to have different aspirations, like catch a good bag. No, I just want to catch a good smallmouth on Del Hollow.
All right.
I've seen the dinks. I know where to catch the largemouth when it floods. Know how to bed fish there. That's great. I can do that anywhere. I want to learn how to catch a big smallmouth in a Highland reservoir. That's literally the only goal. I've been buying big swim baits. Like, I just bought some big old fat body jointed baits, and
I've caught some good ones there on bigger baits. Like,
I'll be honest, I didn't buy them to catch them on those baits. A good buddy of both of ours, Trey Johnson, showed me the light last year with using it to find the fish.
Yeah,
we were wading in a crystal clear creek where you could see the bottom, and he would throw that thing in there, and like an 18-inch smallmouth would roll out from under the bank that you never saw, and just follow it. Wouldn't bite it, but now you know he's there. Just cast wherever he goes.
Yeah, I was going down a bluff wall on Del Hollow a couple years ago with a big glide bait, like a 9-inch glide, and I got some like 20 to 22-inch smallmouth to come out and just follow it. They wouldn't hit it, but they would look at it, and I was like, "Oh man, I need to
I'd
come
panic.
back and fish this."
I'd be like throwing my net in the water.
Yeah, throwing everything you got at them.
Oh, well, hope everybody gets signed up for that. I hope everybody comes out and hangs out with us. But until
Yeah,
then,
it should
thanks
be a
again
good time.
for listening. Another great show. Hobie and Bassmaster doing them up big this year.
I
So
mean, is that 3 in a row? That's like 200 anglers. Well, I don't know if the first Hobie
No, the
got
first
to the,
Hobie was like 180 something, I think.
yeah,
I
but
think it was
still,
184, 235, 204,
yeah, 204 or 5,
205.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
been
going strong right now.
there, and I don't see it backing off. Those two tournaments, I think 200s. I mean, you'll have one. Somebody won't, or the vast majority may not like where it's going.
Yeah,
You'll have one.
that and like later on in the season, there's a lot of conflicting schedules that start happening.
Oh, conflicting schedules, and if you're doing better in one series than the other, it's like you know where
That
your
starts
eggs
giving
need to
it,
be in which basket.
yeah,
And save some money. Yeah, I mean, to be all honest, I mean this shit's expensive, so like
it is. Yeah.
it's hard to chase them all, man. It's like I can't remember who it was we were talking to recently, but they were like, I mean, you can basically say it's like $1,500 minimum a trip.
Yeah,
Like,
somewhere in that range. Yeah.
yeah, and that's
Uh,
all things depending trips to scooters and.
no, that'll jump it up quick if you start doing that.
I just want you to. I'm so excited that you are second picture on the Bassmaster website of the Gunners Book coverage in your scooter shirt. I have
Yeah.
had people call me and say, "What the heck? Who let him get in there in front of that professional cameraman in that shirt?"
Who said that?
Hummel.
Yeah.
Hummel called me as the first thing he said.
Yeah. Yeah,
I love
I
it.
was surprised that they put it like
Multiple times.
second picture. Yeah, like
Second picture,
right up
third
at the
picture,
front of
fifth
the
picture.
thing.
Like
That's the first thing you see is me standing there with my
Scooter's
shirt.
Bar and Grill.
Yeah. Well,
All
now
right,
I got official jersey, so I'll wear that next time.
well, you should put Scooters on it too.
Yeah, I need to hit the Scooter up and see if he'll be a sponsor.
There you go. All right, folks. Till next time, we appreciate it like always. We will see you then. Peace out.
See it.